transparent. People don't invite you places unless they want something. And so yes, we all want something from our legislators. And what I want from you is for you to keep us in mind as you go back to Montpelier. You have some challenges ahead of you, whether that's in healthcare, education, other places. You're going to hear people talking again about consolidating schools, and that's in the paper around here recently, and what should be done about that. You have some major challenges. When we have a growth rate that is minuscule as far as the number of people who are in the state, we need to take care of the people that are here, because we don't want them to leave. And one of the reasons we're here today is that GE has been a strong, strong supporter of our region. One of the things that they do for us, and you heard Glenn Travers, who is in human resources at GE, they allow folks to do lots of volunteer work in our community. And so you will see the GE folks out there a lot. Glenn Travers, I want to thank personally for the number of years that he has been with us here on our Regional Advisory Board at Stafford Tech. He has been a program committee chair, he has been a vice chair, he fills in if the chair can't be here for some reason. Glenn comes with the tough questions, but also the support right when we need it. So I want to thank Glenn for all the years you've been on the Regional Advisory Board. Yeah, he has his Vermont-esque going hunting look here. So good luck.
T-shirt or hat?
All right, there's positive changes going on in our community, and I think that in some small way we feel we are part of that. You've heard me say before that Stafford Tech's role is to be an economic bullet on the economic development resume of our region. Our role is to help places like General Electric or Hubbardton Forge or other businesses that need training or retraining if we can help in that way. We team up with Vermont Technical College and other colleges to help provide that. Our center, we don't want to mothball. We want to have it open in the evenings, we want to have it open on the weekends, we want to have it open in the summertime, and we're working on that and hopefully working with GE on the things that they may need. A while ago, people were signaling the death of manufacturing in the United States, and that it was no longer going to be a place where we could do manufacturing and do it effectively, do it in a cost-effective way. And so I wanted to give you a couple statistics that Jamie gave me the other day. He said, well, there's a census out there in 2011 that counted up the number of jobs that are in manufacturing just in our region. And I thought, well, how many could it be? GE's got 1,000, maybe there's 200 or 300 more. Well, Jamie said, no. There are 2,000, in 2011, there were 2,935 manufacturing-related jobs in Rutland County, just in our county. 2,935 in our county. That was not during an economic boom time, 2011. We were just coming back out of the trough of 2008, 2009 when the economy tanked, and things were beginning to creep up again at that point. Things are much better now, I think. But what was more startling to me was the payroll that was associated with those 2,935 jobs. It was a payroll of more than $154 million a year, payroll that goes into our economy. And I said to Jamie, well, I remember back in college, that goes back into our economy 7 times, right? He said, well, not really. It goes back into our economy about 3.5 times. So even if you multiply $156 million by 3.5, you've got a lot of money rolling through our economy each year. Our role then as Stafford Tech is to help support that. And in some small way, we hope we're supporting GE in the things that they're doing, and we want to continue to do that. So here, what we're doing here with GE, and maybe Dan will talk a little bit about it, is that we have the apprenticeship program. There's a couple different apprenticeship programs going on as they're training and retraining folks. And much of that, some of that, happens here, and we want that to continue. So what do we need from you folks in the legislature? The pie continues to be this big. Everyone is going to ask you to reslice that pie when you go back up to Montpelier. And they're going to want their slice to be a little bit bigger at the expense of someone else's slice that is going to be a little bit smaller. So my job is to say, don't forget education. My job is to say, don't forget technical education in particular, because that's what I'm paid to stand up here and talk about. All of you in this room have already been active supporters of Tech Ed, and I appreciate that. We feel like with the industry certifications, the college credits, the dual enrollment stuff that you got started last year, we're doing that here at the Tech Center, and now it's rolling out to the high schools in a very positive way. Vermont's very lucky in a lot of ways. One of the ways that we're lucky is when the economy goes bust, everybody doesn't leave. When the economy gets great, everybody doesn't leave. We're here, and we are able to take the fluctuations and work with those fluctuations. Why is that? Because businesses like GE stay the course. They say, we know the economy is going to go down a little bit. We know it's going to go up a little bit, but we're here. And it was very exciting that Jeff Immelt was here because that signaled something to everyone, I think, that this is an area that GE will continue to be strong in. But I don't want to take words out of your mouth because that's what I'm hoping I'm going to hear. And so why don't we help me in welcoming Dan DiBattista, who I've got a mic up. All right. Put that on somehow or hang on to it however you want to do that.
I'll do this.
Perfect.
I apologize to the sound guy now because I've never been accused of being quiet. So, good morning. And you know, every time I go to an event like this, I'm humbled because, and I'll get to this, and I will talk about the Immelt visit. I hope folks realize here in this state what a great network you have, our elected officials, both federal, state, all of the businesses, because that's one thing that's recognized, I know, by every boss I've ever had, is the relationship of people here. And it's extremely important that we keep this going, and I'll get to that. But again, thank you. And it's tough. I generally don't prepare notes, and I talk from the top of my head, but there were some things that were really important because this is a little bit different here. A lot of people in the room that help drive these programs that Lyle's talking about. And so I'm going to kind of paint a picture, and I see Jamie sitting here. He could give this pitch as easily as I could. He's very supportive of us. So talk a little bit about the Immelt visit. From a plant perspective, we had a tremendous visit. And when he walks into a plant, he sees technology. He said he's seen more fresh paint probably than anybody in the world when he goes places. But he's there to see what the employees are doing. He wasn't there to visit me or to visit Justin. He knows all about us. And if he was blown away by the folks in the plant, the work ethic, the caring, the expertise. Okay, so what I'm about to talk about feeds all of that, and what the folks are doing here is so important. The second piece of the Immelt visit was he went on, met with folks at the hospital, but when he goes into an area, he looks obviously out of the plant. What are we doing? Are we doing community service and all that, the things he expects of G employees? But he goes back and he looks from the community standpoint and looks back in to the plant. He said he goes places where there are plants just like the Rutland plant where people don't know what's going on, there's no support of it, they don't understand, when you've got a place like a GE plant, any type of a large operation like that, how important it is. You just don't see that. So he went away so impressed with the big picture of Rutland, not just GE, but overall. So everybody should feel really good about that. When you think about the future of the plant, he went away with an extremely positive look here. So, and again, gatherings like this, I'm always feeding up the chain saying these are the kind of things that we're hearing, so we need to keep it up. So just very short on business, how are things at the plant? We're booming, basically. We've had a lot of recovery since the downturn in '09. We're probably up maybe 300 people total since that time. Things are healthy. The biz outlook is very, very good. And as we look out about 3 years at a time. Things are healthy. And, I always say that with the caveat of as long as the economy holds up, because obviously aviation is very affected by that, certain things that can happen in the world. But things are looking good. So, but we have a problem. And the problem is over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to have roughly, I'll say 30 to 35% of our folks are going to retire. It's great. They're going to go out with smiles on their face and pensions and what have you. And that's huge. You figure, you're looking at, 300 plus people that are going to be walking out that door with, 30, 35, 40 years of experience. And so that's huge to us because it's not something you learn to do overnight. I always tell people we don't make toasters. And that's both from the hourly side and also from the exempt and the engineering side. So what I'd like to do today is to kind of take that scenario, great business picture, and yet we've got this wave of folks that are going to be exiting and going out and fish and do all the great things they can do and hunt and enjoy playing golf, and tie it to STEM. Being an engineer, near and dear to me, but Lyle said something that's very true. When you look in the United States, I think educators have lost the focus. I've gone to many schools, universities, where they'll say, well, why would we train engineers? Why would we train people to be manufacturing type people? Because it's all going overseas, and that's just not the case. We're just becoming much more high tech here, and that's how we compete. So it's so important that we understand how STEM impacts us every day. Okay, when Justin's out and he's trying to recruit somebody for us, we're looking for some very, high-ranking people that got great work ethics, but they also have to have the aptitude. And that's not only for the engineers, and that's kind of the next piece of this is our apprentice programs. Lyle mentioned that. We have 2 programs at the plant. One that was established back in 1975, and that's toolmaker/machinist program. And we turn out great people. I'll tell you that I'm an apprentice grad. I graduated from a program down at the Lynn plant many years ago. My dad was an apprentice, so I'm a believer in it. And I tell people, I've gone to kind of John Belushi, 15 years of college, but my apprenticeship was absolutely the best training that I got. I still use what I learned today, regardless of everything else that I've learned in engineering and business and everything else. So that's the one program. The other program that we just started is for maintenance, and that's something that we're waking up to. And probably anybody that runs any kind of a facility here, I don't care if it's a hospital, a small construction company, people that fix the stuff that you use to make the stuff, they are disappearing off the face of the earth, not just at Rutland GE, but not just in Vermont, across the business. So both programs, 3 years of on-the-job training, and then they're at school like 4 nights a week. And that's where the tie with Stafford and VTC comes in. I mean, from a facility standpoint, a curriculum standpoint, I can't say enough about everything that you folks do because it's huge to us. And what's been great about it is we've morphed this and we've wanted to make things more stringent. We're partnered with these people. And we just couldn't do it without them. I mean, between instructors, again, the facilities, it's so important that we keep supporting that. So what's next? I talked about this kind of bleed off of the business. One of the things that we're working on in the plant right now is to take our apprenticeships to the next higher level. I'll call it a master's program. And the idea being that when people come off program, they have a very good understanding of a lot of stuff. Okay, from a manufacturing standpoint, some leadership experience and what have you. But when you look at robotics and automation and forge processes and metallurgy and all the things that we have to do that make Rutland GE very special. And just so you know, some of the things we do in there with forging, it's a dirty old business. There may be only 2 to 3 places in the entire world that do what we do in that plant. Okay, I won't give away the trade secrets, but it's very important. So the idea of this program would be to take people off the program, and I liken it to going to medical school. That would be your initial apprenticeship, and then you decide, well, I'm going to be a specialist in something. So we start guiding them, and then when they get out, okay, they go into this next level, both from an educational standpoint and then from a work standpoint. And the one thing I forgot to mention is on our apprentice program, when the folks come off program, they're about a couple clicks away from having an associate's degree, so they can go back to school and finish that out. So this master's program, again, would be more on-the-job training in very specialized areas so that we're kind of not ad hoc and just by luck of the draw developing these new technical people, but they could also continue their education. So we're working through that right now, and again, Stafford, VTC, and funding will all be very, very important for us to support that. So, and then the final piece of that is when I talk about relationships. is FIRST Robotics. And if you've been in the plant, you'll understand what I'm saying. If you haven't been to the plant, please come, because I'll give you a little note. We were having a emergency response meeting there of the community, and there was a captain from the state police that came in, and he said, "I thought this was all offices in here." Right? So when you walk around the plant, you see a lot of robots, and those we buy the arms basically, but all the programming, the controls, everything in there, for instance, is all done local. So the FIRST Robotics program is very important to us because you know, Justin's wife is a teacher, and Mary, when do you catch kids? Middle school, right? By the time they get to high school, they've kind of made up their minds what they think they want to do, So looking at programs like FIRST Robotics and the Lego portion of that, the Wonder Feet Museum, things like that are really important. So one, we directly support that. A young man named Joe Danner, who's one of our engineers that we just hired within the last couple of years, works directly with the FIRST Robotics group. But in addition, we look at the renovations that are planned for the center here. And this is pretty cool. I mean, you're basically, you know, going to have a robot in the center of classroom, computer, and all that. And that helps us in two ways. One is through the FIRST Robotics program, we can get people interested in technology, get folks into the plant and interested in these type of jobs. And by the way, aerospace is the #1 industry in Vermont. Most people, I don't think, realize that. It is the #1. Am I still right, Jamie?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Make sure I still have my numbers correct. And growing. And people don't think, when they think Vermont, they don't. It's fabulous. And the other, like I said, is one is to get folks interested, but also this facility that Lyle and the team have in mind, we can also use, because as we develop this master's program, we need a place where folks can go and they can, you know, work their trade, so to speak. So again, STEM is so hugely important. You know, I think the educators obviously know that. So what I wanted to end with is, I'll say 3 asks, and Lyle and I did not get together before this, and one is obvious is to support STEM and really understand what it means. It's just not a, you know, an acronym, a catchphrase. It's important not only here, but the United States is in trouble. I mean, when you look around the country and you look what other countries are doing at producing engineers and people that can do that sort of work. And I got a couple of doctor friends, and I tell them you'd be nothing without engineers. So, right? Even look what a doc does today. Funding. You know, it's interesting. You look at GE, and I tell people this, and I like to keep it out there. I think people think because we're part of a large corporation that we get everything funded for us, but it's not. We are sort of like a franchise. We're totally self-supporting, medical, all of this we support. So if there's funding that comes in from the state, that helps us be more competitive. You could take the Rutland plant and drop it someplace else in the country, and the overhead rate for that plant would be different based on tax structure, you know, funding that comes into the plant, state, federal, whatever it is, pay, all those things, okay? And the last thing is, please, as you talk to educators out there, let them know what we do here. I don't want another captain of the state police coming in saying, we thought you were officers. And like I said, I hear more people say, why are we training folks to go off and do this because these jobs don't exist anymore? That's absolutely not true. And, you know, going back to Jeff Immelt after he was on, you know, headed up President Obama's workforce, he got very focused on bringing jobs back to the United States. We're very competitive in this country now because of technology and just economy in general. So it's huge what you're doing across all. So that's my spiel. I'll open up the questions, and I'll warn you, I have a head cold, so you have to yell at me because I'll go, what? Yes?
Do you want to speak to what it would do if we brought the pipeline down to Rutland from Middlebury?
Yeah, you know,
Say no gas.
yeah, I don't even want to talk to the pipeline, to be honest, but I'll talk about natural gas. It goes back to that competitiveness. Anything we can do to lower our costs okay, is good for us. There's a whole cadre of other things that we could do with natural gas. How it gets here, I mean, there's many ways that we could bring it down here, but I'll tell you that having natural gas in the plant would be a good thing for us. But, I mean, as far as a pipeline, I mean, I won't speak to that because I want it in the plant. Again, some places are trucking it in. There's a lot of ways to do this, but I think that's the thing to walk away with, what natural gas would bring to us from an overall financial standpoint. The other thing is, I think it was about 2 or 3 years back, we had a group of folks come in and just look at the Rutland region from a standpoint of new business, and gas is a big deal, right?
How large
So-
are your energy uses?
Excuse me?
How large is your energy usage at this point?
I'll say, fuel, because we use propane and we use number 2 between the 2 plants, but electric, we spend many $1 million a year in electric. Some of that's heating, some of it's, obviously we run a lot of machines there. I mean, we're not as big as an Omnia, for instance, because they're running all the time. Our machines are on and off, but utility costs are big to us, so.
2 questions.
Yep.
First one is what I was struck by when your boss was in town last month was the orders you guys have in your pocket.
Yeah.
So that gives you the long term. And
Yep.
so did the numbers he threw out include any advanced knowledge you had of the 7.7 orders that Middle East, they just dropped $100 billion on the
Yeah.
7.7? You
Yeah.
obviously hang your engines on that bird.
Yeah, what Chris is referring to is backlog, and what backlog is to a business isn't you're behind. That's what's out in the future, and it's years and years. I mean, that was all there. I mean, it's many people that are in the plant right now, even if they only have 10 years of service, that's out there. That doesn't guarantee Rutland, Vermont, the work. And it goes back to that competitiveness. And what I always tell the people in the plant is we're competing against other GE locations. There are people in the country, states, that would love to take that work away. And that's a message, Peg's heard me say it before, right? She's been in the plant. States are now competing, not just companies and people and countries. States are competing with each other. So we've got to stay competitive. I mean, we do great work there. We got a lot of, we need to have the technical resources to keep it here, and then we got to keep the cost side of things. So.
And the other question, which was, really for you, Lyle and Justin,
Yeah.
is, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and I apologize, I'm not too quick on the uptake, but we're talking about training first, engineers, and at the same time, talking about apprentice programs where someone goes through it and is 2 clicks short of an associate.
Yes.
Clearly, that's, 2 different, I don't know if I want to call it career paths, but how do you, working with Justin, your HR guy, and Lyle, address these 2 different levels
Yeah.
of education, if you will, to make sure that we're feeding both needs for your plant, both the manufacturing side and the real engineering side?
Yeah, and I mean, it's really kind of 3-pronged when I look at the way maybe 4, that we bring people in the plant. First, we have the GE Leadership Program, the OMLP program. It's Operations and Management Leadership Program. Very bright people. They may, in aviation, maybe have 30 a year that they recruit, and they end up going around, and at some point, after 2 years, they come off program and they'll settle somewhere. Very small number of people, and in general, those people are doing one of these. They're climbing, okay? The next 3 categories I'm talking about, Justin and I talk a lot about this, is building the pillars within a GE plant. And it's true no matter where you go, Rutland, Lynn, Cincinnati, where you go, you've got the greater population of people that, born, live, right, raise families, and they're not moving in and out of these plants. So direct hires. So, we were talking to Kevin a little while earlier about having a co-op program up at UVM. Huge, because you can get local people that want to stay in Vermont, right? We want them to stay. They've got great jobs in front of them. So co-op programs are huge, because any school that's not doing a co-op program today, college, they're putting their students at a disadvantage, because when you look at development programs and all that, experience is huge, okay? The next the apprentice programs that we talked about, and a significant number of our exempts are apprentice grads, right? I'm kind of an aberration running a plant, having been an apprentice grad. I didn't come in through program, but guess what? You can do it, and it's very important. And then direct hires. But in all those cases, our hiring qualifications for all those are pretty stringent. One from a experience standpoint, and then your ability to come in, you know, and just understand what you're doing in there. So we do a lot of training internally, but to get in the door, you've got to have certain criteria coming in. Once we get them in, we can do a lot of training. Like I said, all the people that are doing the robotics training, other than Joe that we hired, are all homegrown people. They learned it in the plant. So,
Hey, Dan, I'll jump in. We have an engineering challenge that you just heard there, too. So if anyone knows what the sound is, thank you very much. We'll get to that at some point. Our role in what your question is around STEM. And frankly, we just didn't invent math and science. It's been around forever. But it's how it's packaged and how we roll it out to students. It's really project-based, and that's what Pai Chan's program here, the STEM Academy, the Rutland County STEM Academy, will be next year. It's having challenges around actual, meaningful activities that you then bring your math and science knowledge to. And through Pai's program, students will be able to get college credit, and that will lead to the engineers, we hope, in the future. We're not training engineers right here. We're getting kids jazzed up to want to be engineers. And they're going to have to go off and get training, and then we hope they're going to come back. And one of the reasons we hope they'll come back is they'll create a relationship with folks at, like Justin or Dan at GE, and say, hey, I remember them, I want to go back there. The other piece that we're doing is through Bill Lucci's program, which Bill organizes that apprenticeship piece for us here. And so that is the other piece we do. We do the apprenticeship part, helping with the apprenticeship part. So we have the kids, get them jazzed up through Pai's program and some renovations that I wasn't even going to talk about, but I could. We'll need some money for renovations.
Should I have not brought it up, or?
Thanks, Dan. We didn't talk before, but this is perfect. But through Bill's program and some of the things that you do, and maybe, Bill, you could speak just briefly to, there are some funding sources out there that General Electric can take advantage of, that the legislators have control over. Maybe you could mention those one or two.
Obviously, the Vermont training program that used to be called, we've been in the legislature for a while, Bill Fagan's money. Bill's been out of the loop for a while. Beth Demers runs the Vermont training program, the manufacturing training program.
Well, can you stand up so I can see
That funding.
Couldn't hear you, Doug.
Right.
Couldn't hear you.
That funding is critical as it brings, for qualified programs and employers, there's a 40% rebate for incumbent workers who are in the industry, who take courses that are directly related to what they're doing. You get a 40% rebate from the Vermont training program. It's through Vermont training program through us, and we actually engineer that program. The other is the adult tech ed money that we've been fortunate enough to access over the last few years. It's held steady because of your work, your legislative work. You get access to through the Department of Labor for what's called local plans. We develop a plan on how to use that money. It goes through a review panel now, so that there's legitimacy in terms of where the money's going to go, and there's follow-up and outcomes assessment. But that money in the past, things that you've seen through Rutland County, that money through the Adult Tech Ed Fund has supported our acquisition of the trucks that helped us develop our CDL driver training program. It helped us acquire the money to build the first step in the maintenance technician program that GE was talking about upstairs, where that money has it's tires on the road for us in terms of being able to provide the training that Dan wants, and that Omnia wants, and Hubbardton Forge wants. And I'm going to give you the third year. The third year was the acquisition of the equipment in the welding lab. The apprentices now have a welding component in their toolmaker apprenticeship program, and the acquisition of that state-of-the-art equipment in the welding lab came as a direct result of the money that you allocated through the Adult Tech Education Fund. So if wonder if it's doing anything. It really does, it's critical for us.
Another piece you have been active in as legislators is the program innovation money through the Department of Education, Agency of Education now. We would not be doing the work that Phi Chan is doing right now with our STEM Academy were it not for that. Over 2 years, we'll receive about $130,000, and that's because of your efforts in making sure that program innovation money is there for technical centers. So thank you very much for that. Other questions of Dan? He has a full-time job. He's going to have to run off, as you folks do. Other questions? And because
Well, awesome. Thank you.
because we're always advertising, and I heard you say at your table, hey, I'd like to come back here someday. Gift certificate to 4 to the Dollhouse Restaurant. I hope you'll bring your whole family, friends.
Thank you.